Hey friends, you're listening to All Aboard the Dream Train, a dream storytelling podcast where the experiences and the narratives created by the unconscious brain are retold by the waking brain. A place where we discuss and explore the similarities and differences between the dreaming life and the waking life. Welcome back and thanks for listening. This is the first episode of 2020. We're stoked to be back and we're looking forward to a brand new year. My name is Mason, I'm your host, and to give you an idea of how this works, if this is your first time, each episode I interview a new guest and we ask them some questions about themselves, and then we explore a little bit about their sleeping life and sleep habits. And then they ever so graciously tell us a story or two about their dream life and how those dreams have affected them. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to go over a few things real quick regarding the new year and the podcast. I'll try and make this quick here. Number one, I believe what makes a show entertaining is just keeping the content fresh and new. So I'm going to do my best to get a wide variety of guests. I want to talk to people from all walks of life. But secondly, and I think more importantly, is how those stories are told. You know, it's not always what you say, but how you say it. So I decided to join the National Storytelling Network so that we can kind of craft these stories and give them a little bit of structure. And I think it's going to be much more pleasant to listen to. And it's, in the end, going to create a really unique podcast. And number two, listeners so far have been super positive, given a lot of great feedback. You guys have been super supportive. I really do appreciate that. I've been wanting to take the listening experience to the next level, but I've definitely been off more than I can chew. I had no idea there was this much work behind a podcast, and but luckily I've been offered some help, actually from a few different people. You're definitely going to notice a improvement in the sound quality, and we're doing a lot of like little things with sound design, and it completely changes the listening experience. I'm excited to share with you guys what we're doing, and I hope you folks like it. And on that note, today you're going to hear the voice of the talent behind the intro music and the future sound design. Honestly, I've always known him as a producer of sound. He's an amazing photographer. He's an artist with really dope like graffiti and character styles. Please welcome aboard my dude, Kit Crenshaw. I really do appreciate, man.
Yeah, man. No, it's cool. It's
Yeah.
cool. It's cool to see my friends doing things like this and be able to be a part of it and contribute in whatever way possible. So it's nice.
Hell yeah. All right, let's just jump into it, man. Can you tell anybody that's listening your age, or name, age, and location?
My name is Kit Crenshaw. I am 36 years old, and I live in Portland, Oregon.
Dope. OG Portland too. You've been
OG.
Yeah, you've been here forever.
Yeah.
Bounced around a little bit.
Yeah. I actually I don't know if this matters to anybody, but I spent about 9 years of my life as a kid in Texas, in Dallas, Texas.
Okay.
But I was born here, and then 3 years in New York City.
3 years in New York. That's right.
Yeah, from 30 to 33.
That's right. What are some of your hobbies or your passions?
I've always been an artist, illustrator when I was a kid. I mean, I think everybody scribbles a lot when they're a kid, and that just kind of turned into a full-blown passion for me for a long time. And then that eventually developed into, I think that was the main thing I did for years. And then like graffiti turned into graffiti. And then also after that eventually just kind of evolved into a love for hip hop. And then so, yeah, I got into like Souls of Mischief early on, and like Far Side and like Tribe and all of those groups. And And that eventually turned into a really deep and intimate love with hip hop music, which turned into a desire to actually make my own.
Yeah.
I started writing when I was about 15 and like making beats and everything back then. And yeah, man, that's pretty much what I do now. I just make music, and I don't really draw much anymore. Kind of fell by the wayside. Eventually you kind of just have to, I guess, decide which passion you're going to give most of your time to and most of your energy, especially as you get older and your bandwidth becomes a little bit more compressed. But it also, you just have other obligations that fill that bandwidth, and then you have to like decide where you're going to put your passions within all of that. And so, yeah, music. Yeah.
Awesome, dude. Did you ever play any instruments?
No, I was a sample bass producer for a long time, and that actually turned into a love for like every kind of music, not just hip hop. So hip hop is being that conglomerate of so many different sounds. Obviously, helped me develop this love for like jazz for early on, like Miles Davis and John Coltrane, and then eventually that turned into like getting into. I was always a big fan of like really heavy, deep sounds, like really just like dense, like rich sonic tapestries, and that would be like that turned into a love for like psychedelic rock. Turn my phone off, sorry about that.
That's all good.
And things like that, just like heavy synth right now. I'm really into just like dark heavy synth.
A lot of computer. It's pretty impressive. It's crazy, like you don't even have to play an instrument anymore. You can just like mess around with it on the computer. It's beautiful.
Totally. I guess to answer your question completely, I am learning instruments right now. I'm learning guitar. And like learning a new type of software and everything. It's taken a little over a year to like really get to know this stuff, and I'm like learning. I mean, it's amazing what you can do from the internet. You can just learn chords and like learn progressions and like learn scales. And so I've been doing all that, and that's been helping a lot. And it's helping me get the music in my head onto into this sonic space. Yeah.
All right, the hard question: how would you describe yourself?
Oh man. I don't even know how to describe myself to myself.
You kind of did it pretty well. I mean,
I guess so. That was
kind of just
all that.
All right.
I just heard all that. That's me. No, it's weird because for a long time, I don't know. I mean, to get into my history, like to describe myself to somebody, I'd have to get into my history with like neurology and everything. But yeah, I mean, I guess somebody who's always kind of like trying to. Right now, I can only speak for right now. I guess. And I guess that's all that matters if I'm going to describe myself to somebody in the present moment. I'm just trying to grow and evolve as a human and be better. And try to remain positive and teach when I can and listen when it's necessary. And that's it, I think.
Well said.
Yeah.
What helps you relax or unwind at the end of the day?
Weed. That, but also just like a combination of that, and then just like I've been trying to meditate more. I have a friend who's I think we just talked about this a little bit before we started recording, but who's a Zen Buddhist monk in training, and I think it's always a practice, but he's pretty well formed, I guess, as a practitioner, and he's been really instrumental in just kind of like steering whether he knows it or not, steering my focus toward being more at peace. So I've been trying to like meditate more, yoga, whatever, all of those things as you get older.
Totally.
Music too, obviously.
Yeah. Do you have any sleep aids or rituals?
No, not before bed. Just kind of lay down and close my eyes and hope for the best.
Do you fall asleep? Do you find that you fall asleep easily, or is it kind of a struggle? It's
all over the place. It depends on how much work. Like if I work or exercise throughout the day, then I find that falling asleep is pretty easy. Yeah. But if not, then no. Yeah. Depends on how much screen time I get too, I found. Yeah. Like if I spend a lot of time on my phone before bed, then I'm just like, my eyes, like my body and my brain are exhausted, but my eyes for some reason just want to be open. Damn. They're like, where's the screen, man? Like, like, it's scary.
Yeah. No, it is. I deal with the same thing, man. It's not good to be glued to your screen just before bed.
No, yeah.
Do you share your bed, or do you have it all to yourself?
All to myself.
Okay.
I'm on the market, as you would say.
Heyo.
Ladies. I'm just kidding. No, yeah, yeah.
Cool. Do you take up the whole bed? Do you have are you like a mummy, like in a corner of the bed? How do you?
I am. It's a really funny question. I just pictured myself in a fetal position, just like curled up in the corner of my. No, I just kind of like I sprawl, man.
Okay.
I just spread out, starfish. Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you keep a dream journal?
I don't.
Okay.
I should.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it, but.
Have you ever recorded anything, any of your dreams, or like as soon as you wake up? I know some people do that.
I don't, because I've actually always been really good at remembering. My brain is really good at retaining that image for whatever reason. The series of images, it just sticks. If it's important, I feel like it just sticks, and I've never had to record anything. So I just never felt inclined to.
That's fair. Are you a night owl or an early riser?
I'm a night owl by nature,
okay.
But by.
Okay.
Yeah, not right now because I have a job that requires that I get up early, but I'm naturally a night owl.
Yeah. Is there like a time of the night or day, for that matter, that you feel like your creative juices are just flowing much harder
4 a.m.
fluidly? 4 a.m.
4 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah, like we're on the dot.
Damn.
Like I could probably watch the clock and watch it roll over from 3:59 to 4 o'clock and just be like, and you get hit. I mean, that's the witching hour, like that's the I don't know. There's probably studies about this. I haven't read it, but like I haven't read anything about them. But yeah, I've heard that there is some sort of, you know what? I'm not going to delve into the pseudoscience, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Like I think a lot of people have that experience.
Yeah. Do you track your sleep at all?
No, I did at one point, and it was really helpful.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was more well rested when I did. And I also think that just like having that peace of mind and knowing that you've gotten your 8 hours every night throughout the week, it kind of just like, it's not like I'm never checking in with myself. If I'm tracking my sleep, I'm never checking in with myself to make sure that I've gotten enough sleep.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. How would you do it when you did track it? Was it like through an app?
Yeah, it was just through the one that comes on. It's like the stock iPhone thing where like I guess it measures or like can listen to your breath, and it's kind of cool, and it just like knows when you're sleeping.
Yeah,
which is kind of weird.
Yeah, super weird, but. Yeah. So, how many hours of sleep on average would you say that you get?
Try to get 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, nowadays I get about 6 to 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Is it consistent or broken up? Like, do you wake up every 2 hours and have to move around, or are you, for the most part, pretty...
It depends. Like I have roommates, and I live. My room is right next to the front door, so when people leave for work before me in the morning and before I wake up, there's like the doors opening and closing, and I do actually have a fan running, so I have a lot of white noise.
Nice.
I don't know if that affects my sleep in some way that I'm not aware of, but I don't seem to be losing rest because of it. But yeah, I usually wake up a couple times every night, which kind of sucks. But
yeah, it happens. Favorite sleeping position?
I used to sleep on my stomach for a long time, and I wouldn't use a pillow. I would sleep on my stomach and just like have my head flat on the mattress, and that was the most comfortable for me.
Damn.
But I've been trying recently. I still like shift to my stomach. I feel like because it's natural, but I've been trying to sleep on my side or on my back. My back just feels wrong. I feel like people that lay on their back and just sleep like with their eyes closed are probably like psychopaths or something. No, they probably just have really good posture.
Right.
But it seems like a very robotic thing to do. It's like the thing that that you would like, I don't know, like find like some like humanoid android sleeping on his back and just like and wake up and look over at you,
Time to sleep.
Time to sleep.
Yeah. So stomach.
Stomach typically, even though I don't want to admit it, but stomach.
That's fair. A little bit on that topic. Are you a pillow person? Do you have a bunch of pillows, or
as of late? Yeah, like I think the last time I came in when we did the last podcast, or like the last time we tried to record, I was not using a pillow still, but I've been trying to sleep on my side.
Yeah.
And it was actually that talking to you and then doing a little bit of research on my own that made me want to sleep on my side a little bit more. But I've been using one pillow.
Yeah. That's dope.
And it's very flat, so it's still just like barely a pillow.
Okay.
But yeah. It's
dope.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's better than nothing, unless no pillows is better for you. And then what interests you in dreams?
The most fascinating thing for me, and the first dream that I'm going to talk about gets into this, but the idea that we can sort of emulate or maybe like simulate what is happening in the external world and in our reality and in our environment internally. And even be able to access what's happening in real time. So like the idea of like astral projection, you know, like, but within the dream space. But that it just, I guess, just to like make it more simple, just like the parallels between the dream space and the waking state, or the dream state and the waking state, and that it might be possible that these spaces are sort of the same and they exist on top of each other or within each other, or maybe like the external world is really just happening within you, and when you're dreaming, you're just kind of like, I guess, sort of that state or that space becomes more malleable because you're really just you're using your internal perception to experience it. I'm going to talk about one dream that I had that really changed. I guess it just it altered my perception of what the dream state is, or what the dream space is, or what is possible within dreams, and the importance of those dreams and of the experiences that you have while you're sleeping. I get, so yeah, the first one that I talk about is going to be a little bit more about that, and it sort of just made me want to pay more attention to what's happening in my head when I sleep. Yeah.
When did it start?
I guess this was probably like around 2003, maybe. I had always had, actually before that, I used to have sleep paralysis.
Okay.
But I've always wanted, like, I've always been fascinated with dreams. When I was younger, I had a lot of experiences with like lucid dreaming that just sort of occurred, and everything felt so real. Like I could wake up in the morning and tell you everything that I experienced when I was sleeping, and the whole dream, like every instance. And the memories were almost more ingrained than memories that I would have in my waking state, just kind of going about my day. Yeah, it was amazing. And I guess it's because they were really like profound experiences usually. I guess I'll talk about the sleep paralysis a little bit, and then I'll get into the first dream. I just want to touch on this because I think this is something that a lot of people experience, and it terrifies people.
Cool. Yeah.
But for me, when I was young, I would have I grew up in a pretty like relatively Christian home. And so for me, the way that I was filtering all of this, filtering these experiences, was like through this like sort of Judeo-Christian theology or this ideology, you know. Right. And so I had, I would fall asleep, and at a certain point, I would open my eyes, and I would be frozen in my bed, and it would feel like somebody was like holding onto my jaw and like twisting my jaw, and in a way that it felt like I was grinding my teeth so hard. I felt like my teeth were going to break off inside my mouth. Usually I would see like a red light. Like my whole room would be sort of illuminated in red. Like the walls would be just like painted in red light. In your sleep life? Yeah, but you think you're awake. Yeah. You know, you're paralyzed, but you think you're awake. And I would see these like shadows run up the wall of like these figures, these characters. And in my head, like I said, this is probably when I was like 16. Okay. So I think I knew you back then. Yeah. Actually. Yeah. Probably like right around the time we were skating and stuff. Super young. Still. Yeah, still super young. And yeah, I would just have these crazy experiences with it. And in my head, I thought, I was like, these are demons. This is like, there's something in this space, you know. But then I would wake up and I would actually open my eyes, you know, but everything would be the same. Like, the scary thing about it is that if you feel like, when you're in that state, you wonder if you're actually just like seeing something that is always there, or something that is actually there, but it's just beyond your perception, you know? And when you actually open your eyes, and I actually had an experience recently when I was dreaming, and I think I texted you about it, that made me kind of like think this, it kind of solidified this, or I don't know, solidified is the
Reawoke,
word. Yeah, it just kind of made me wonder, like, man, is it possible that when we're dreaming, we're also just kind of in a space, like I said before, that is just kind of like, it's the same space, but it's just more malleable.
Yeah.
I think that's it can be a sort of a playground in that sense, or it can be a place for
exploring.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like, it's like it helps us access that place where we can really like kind of like defragment and work things out if we need to, sort of like psychedelics do.
So that's was that your experience with sleep apnea?
I didn't have sleep apnea.
Oh,
you mean paralysis?
Oh, paralysis. My bad.
Yeah, that was my experience with sleep paralysis. Okay. Yeah, where I just that would happen relatively frequently for about, I mean, probably like 3 or 4 years.
Damn.
But then I did more research, and I discovered that it was probably a chemical that was, I mean, there's a chemical that floods your system when you sleep that paralyzes you, so you don't act out your dreams.
You were less scared. You were less scared of it.
I was less scared of it. But then like still, there's a part of me that doesn't know if there are sort of like just beyond our perception. If there's like we don't know. What's going on.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to discount the possibility of, entities or whatever existing in that space.
Totally.
So whether they're nefarious or want to harm us is totally different,
And how does that tie into the first story that...
That ties in, it doesn't really tie in as much, but that's sort of like, that was more actually when I was really fascinated with what was happening in the dream state. You know, like, what is this?
Started paying more attention at that point.
It just felt to me to be more important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it seems like it wouldn't be, maybe I'm just not thinking of something, but it seems like it wouldn't be there unless it served a purpose. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
So, but yeah, so to get into the first dream, there was a friend of mine, I won't name her because it doesn't matter, but she's a really good friend of mine. I've known her for like 15 years now, 16 years, probably longer actually. At the time, I hadn't really seen her in a while or whatever, and I had this dream where I was kind of a fly on the wall, and I was in her apartment, and I was kind of like watching, just like why am I, like asking myself why I was there, and like why I was up in the corner of the room and at the end of a hallway, and I could hear, and I could see down the hallway to her, to the end of the hallway was like there was a door, and that was the bathroom, and then to the right was her bedroom. But her apartment was really messy. Off to the right was her kitchen, and it was super messy, like it never was. And I could hear this like yelling from the end of the, like somebody, like two people were fighting, and I could hear this dude say, "But I love you," and then she like burst out of her bedroom door and into her bathroom, and I could hear like the shower turn on or whatever, and then like a couple of minutes later she comes out, she's in a towel, and she goes back into her bedroom, and she's like, you can tell she's like frantically sort of doing something, and then she comes out, and she's all dressed, and she goes into the kitchen or whatever and just does like her normal stuff. At that time, I don't know if I don't think I saw her boyfriend in the dream, but I could hear him, and he was like crying and just angry.
You could tell the presence was there.
Yeah, like they were fighting for some reason, and I'm not saying there was any reason for me to be there, but I woke up to a text message from her the next morning after not talking to her for a long time saying, "I miss you." I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So I can't remember if I sent her a text or something, but I contacted her immediately, and I was like, "Hey, what are you doing today?" And she's like, "Well, I'm going to be at the Art Institute. I have to go to school, And I was like, "Oh, that's really strange because I'm actually going to be at the Art Institute also. Like I'm going there to help a friend with like a photo shoot. He was like practicing photography in one of their studios." So I was like, I mean, do you want to meet up and have coffee or something? Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, it sounds great. But I didn't tell her about the dream right away.
Right.
So I got there, I'm like helping my friend out, and she comes into the room or whatever, and we're just kind of hanging out. And we go to get coffee, and I'm like, yo, I gotta tell you about something. Like, this is kind of crazy, and knowing she's the kind of person who would be receptive to something like this and not be just like, you're insane.
Yeah.
Shut up. So I tell her, and she looks at me, and she's like, kind of like stunned, and goes like, that's exactly what happened last night. Like, I kind of like, my blood ran cold for a second, you know, and I'm pretty sure I went pale, like, you know, like, and I was just like, I was like, what the fuck? Whoa. All right, well, this is a really big, but she was just kind of like, oh yeah, sure, like, just like not even tripping, like, and I was like, what? I was like, my whole reality shifted, you know what I mean? Like, my whole perception of everything changed dramatically, immediately, and it was like this huge, profound experience for me. And if anything, it served the purpose of showing me that there was more possible in this space. Yeah. And essentially, I just think all I can think of is when I tell, like I was mentioned my monk friend before. Yeah. And when I've told him about this, he's like, that's sort of like astral projection, you know? Like, yeah. So, yeah.
Dude, yeah, even just like processing that on the spot. Like, once you hear it, it's like, you can't process it right then and there.
I was just like, we are connected. Yeah. There's more to us. And I was much younger too, and the amount of information on the internet wasn't as prevalent. So like, I couldn't just like go and like be like, oh shit, I gotta Google this, you know, figure out what's going on. Yeah. There wasn't as much information on dreaming or anything, and most of it was like pseudo, like just kind of like people, like the craziest people. I feel like they were the people that started like putting internet information on the internet first. You know? So you're just like, totally. All these people are bad shit as far as I'm concerned. I'm just trying to find some sort of science. Yeah. And didn't really find anything, so I was just like, all right, well, now I know that is something that is possible, I guess, you know, so, yeah.
Damn, dude.
So, yeah, so that was the first dream.
Did you, can you describe, like, how you woke up in the morning? Because obviously you didn't know the story yet, so
no.
In the morning, were you just like, man, like, I hope she's okay, or like, what were you thinking?
I was just like, that was a weird dream. That was a weird fucking dream. I have no idea. Like, I had no clue as to, like, I didn't really.
She wasn't on your mind lately or anything. It was just like,
no, that was the other strange thing. It was like, it was a friend of. She was just she's just a friend, like a really good friend, you know. And I slept at my parents' house that night. Mm-hmm. In their guest room, and actually the best dreams that I've ever had were in my parents' home. Like, and I think it was so quiet out there. It was in the middle of the country, and I just had such deep and restful sleep that I was able to actually like really get into that REM state.
Dope.
Yeah.
So you woke up and you're just like, that was weird.
I guess. Sorry to answer your question. Man, I just woke up and I was like, But just like anybody, you know, even this is before smartphones, but I picked up my phone. It was just like a little, like, you know, like
Nokia.
It was like a Sony Ericsson, really small still, just like a little flat thing. And I opened it, and the first thing I looked at, I think I went to like check the time, and it just told me that I had a message from her, and I checked it and it said, "I miss you." So I didn't really have time to process the dream before I actually got the text. So it was like almost instantly after I woke up from the dream, I saw this text message from her. So they were sort of connected. Yeah. You know, like those experiences were so, you know, so close together that I couldn't help but like just kind of like still be almost kind of in the dream state while I'm looking, you know, like you're just kind of like peeling yourself out of it, and you look and I see her name and the message, you know what I mean? Like,
that's crazy. Going straight from the dream state to the waking state with the same.
Exactly. Like, and then that day got confirmation from her saying that she actually had that experience. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot, but it was exciting.
Yeah,
you know, because you're like, for a minute, your ego is like, man, I got superpowers. Just like, what? This is crazy.
I got to learn how to tap into this more often.
Yeah, well, it also makes you. The other thing that you find is that when you experience things like that, you become a little bit isolated from other people. You kind of, because you don't really have a way of working it into your like normal persona. It's such a profound experience that it sort of like floods your entire psyche,
Yeah.
and it makes it really difficult for you to just like act like a normal human.
Yeah,
Like that hasn't just had this crazy experience. And so you kind of like, I think this is why people that have interesting experiences, and I think it's a lot more common than we think.
Yeah.
I think this is why they actually like tend to be a little bit more introverted and isolationist.
Interesting.
And, yeah. I think it's important that people that have these experiences continue to try to like create a balance where they're actually still grounded and relatable to other people that don't necessarily have these experiences.
Yeah.
For me, that just I think it just matters because I learned that lesson the hard way,
Yeah.
and just kind of like being like, oh my God, I'm different.
Yeah.
And then like making that who I was, and really I'm not that different.
Yeah,
And so anyway.
Here's a question on that. How many people have you told that dream to besides her on that day?
A couple of people, like anybody that I've come across who's like brought up dreams to
When
me,
the subject comes up, but it's not something you would have just told your
I don't
coworker
just
that day.
voluntarily bring it up. Actually, I have a coworker. It's weird that I just got a new job, and we were working together yesterday, and she started talking to me about dreams. It just instantly starts bringing up like existential stuff, and I'm like,
You're like, yes,
this is my homie. And so I was like, we're gonna be friends,
Tight.
So we just started talking about everything, and she's telling me about dreams she's had and like how she has like really great recall.
Tight.
And I was like, I have a friend with a podcast. you should talk to him because she's actually somebody you should talk to.
dude.
Actually.
Yeah, you should set that up.
I'll do my best. I'll see if
Cool.
she's into it.
Dope. Yeah, that's a wild dream, man. It's hard to explain. It's hard to even describe, I mean,
It is. It's like
that was you did it really well.
Thank
Good
you.
job of
Thanks.
that.
Thanks, man.
It's not easy to.
I've been
that.
thinking about how I was
Yeah.
gonna like frame this stuff, and you can prepare as much as possible. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Any other dreams that stick out?
Yeah, quite a few. But I tried to narrow it down to 3.
Yeah.
So the next one is man, this one's long. This one's
Okay.
Is that all right?
If you think you can, yeah.
I'll try to fit it into.
This is your time, man. Whatever one you wanna.
All right. This dream is about man, I've been reading a lot. I'd read like The Alchemist, which is a dream about it's a book.
Yeah.
It's a book about just sort of like recognizing signs in your life and like omens and your purpose. It's basically just like use your gut, man. Like follow your gut, follow your instincts, and pay attention to what's happening around you.
Yeah.
And what do you as a member of this this global community, this ecosystem, trying to tell yourself? And I think that's kind of like more how I see it. Like you can sort of communicate to yourself through other people because we're all sort of like this. How I view it is we're all part of this like singular consciousness in a way, or universal consciousness.
Yeah.
So not to sound cheesy here or anything, but I think a lot of that happens in dreams. And I think, and it can also just be somebody talking to you about something and them feeling somehow randomly inspired to tell you about something that you've been thinking about for a while, and you're like, man, I didn't even talk to you about that, yet you still like for some reason had this inclination to talk to me about this thing. Like, how did that happen? We're communicating on some, dare I say it, psychic level. This dream was after I'd been reading some books on philosophy and just kind of delving into myself and like trying to find an answer to, just like what this whole thing means. So I'd been staying at my parents' house. I got really sick with like I was having a strange set of symptoms. And nobody could really find out what was wrong with me. I was going to doctors, and they were just like, "We don't know. Sorry,
Yeah.
you're SOL." So I had to stay there, and until we figured out what was going on.
Wow.
I remember falling asleep and just sort of like drifting into my body in the hallway just beyond the door of the room I was sleeping in. And I walked down the hallway, and to the end of it was my room when I was like in high school, you know? And I walked through that room, and beyond that is a bathroom. I walk into the bathroom, and that's where the house ends, typically. But there was a door there. Instead of a window, there was a door. Yeah. So I walk through the door, I go down this hallway, it's dark. There is a, it's painted, and the sheetrock is the same as the rest of my parents' house, you know, and it was like a guest room, basically. The hallway leads to an opening that it's filled with light. It's really just like as far as I can tell, it's like a full-sized home, and I'm just in one room of it. And I'm surrounded by like white linen and clothing hanging from clotheslines, like drying out in the middle of this living room space. It's carpeted. I can feel the carpet on my toes. Seems to be around. And I'm just kind of standing there just going like, what the hell's going on? Where did this place come from? How did I not know this room was here? Like, or this house was here? Then I see the sheets or the linen and the clothing, and there's like, you know, there's like some, like, there's like a t-shirt, some like white briefs and like some other stuff hanging there. And it starts moving, and this little kid, blonde kid, kind of pale, pokes his head out, like, from between the sheets and looks at me. And kind of like, and soon emerges completely and goes and just kind of stares at me. And then another person comes out, and the same thing happens, and I see like a whole family. Eventually, like, the room fills with people, like this whole family of like blonde-haired, white, like children of the corn, but like less nefarious, you know, like. And this one man emerges from that group of people and walks close to me, removes his clothing, and just signals to me to do the same. Remove my clothing, I'm completely naked. Yeah. And, you know, there's nothing, just to say, like, there's nothing sexual about this experience. It's literally just like he's like, this has to happen for me to take you where I need to take you. Yeah. You know, and so he's like, he signals basically, he just looks at me, and I know I need to follow him, you know, and so I follow him through the room. We go down the hallway, and we get to this door. He opens it, a shaft of light comes through, and I step onto these cold mosaic tiles. Parallel to this sort of landing that I step onto, there's a fountain. And the fountain is just like it's a little river. It's a little, you know, like, it's not like a fountain like in front of like
stream.
Yeah, it's a stream. Gotcha. Yeah, totally. Like, it's like this mosaic sort of, like, there's like these fish and sort of like this beautiful like kelp sort of design underneath the water, and it goes down to the end of the stairway, follows the steps perfectly, and cuts underneath the steps. And so, like, the stairs end on a landing. The landing is sort of like a little bridge over the stream. The stream continues off to the right and then goes underneath another wall and disappears.
Damn.
I walk down the steps. The room opens up into this massive temple space. There are huge pillars, marble pillars on my left and right. There is a marble tiled like floor, checkered, like sort of teal and white.
Interesting.
Or like gray, like typical marble color, you know?
Yeah.
And it all looks relatively new, but it's also descending into ruin, and it's open to the elements. There's sand coming in from a desert. There are two men standing in the middle of the temple. One is dressed in a red robe, and he's got like balls of lightning for eyes. That's the best way I can describe it. And this electricity is shooting out of his eyes and sort of wrapping around his head, sort of like Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
You know, like
super bright.
Just like, just powerful. Like I said, he's dressed in a red robe. He's got a big staff with like a big gemstone in the top, you know. And then like to the right, there's this dude, and he's old and rickety and broken and shaking and frail, and he's wearing blue. And they're both arguing separate points. And the man dressed in red, who to me represented a more nefarious force, is clearly winning. At this point, he's in control of this cosmic chessboard or whatever. That's what it felt like. Right. Beyond this, into the desert, there are the pyramids of Giza. Okay. And then in front of them are two hyenas pacing back and forth with glowing eyes. Damn. The sun is setting behind them. So this is sort of the scene, right? Yeah. The light from the setting sun is coming into the temple, and I'm just naked watching these dudes argue philosophy. And I'm looking back at the guy behind me, and he's just like, and in my head, for some reason, he's Russian. I have no idea why, right. But that's his,
details.
Yeah, I don't know what it means, but right. He is. Yeah. So I'm watching these guys for a while, and just kind of like looking, like just trying to soak in my environment. Yeah. I finally get up the nerve to walk up to one of them, actually both of them, but I addressed the man in red. And I was like, why can't you just get along? What's going on? Why did the scales have to be tipped in one direction or the other? Why does it have to be so tilted? Why can't we just make it work? Yeah. And the guy in red turns to me and he says, "Depart from me," in this booming voice, depart, I'm finished with you. Yeah. I was stunned and just kind of okay, I clearly have no place in this conversation. I turn around to walk back into the house, and the guy's still standing by the door you're not done here. And so I kind of step off to the side over this little stream, mm-hmm. and onto this flat platform where there was a shaft of light coming down from the ceiling through a hole, which is called an oculus, strangely enough. Yeah. And I see this insect. I look up, and this, in my periphery, I guess, I catch this mosquito, mm-hmm. swirling around. It lands on my thumb, bites me, and then my body, from that point, from the point at which it bit me, turns mm-hmm. to little bricks, all up my entire arm, both arms, and then these windows form in my wrists. Whoa. My palms are facing up, and I'm looking down at my arms, and in my wrists are these two windows, church windows, basically, with crosses inside of them. I walk out of the room, and the dream is over, and I wake up.
Damn.
Yeah. So that's that dream. I tell this story every once in a while, but the details are crazy, and to describe this thing that that just doesn't exist in real life, right. I mean, aside from the Giza plateau and everything, right. All that stuff. So anyway, I had this dream, I wake up from it, and I'm like, holy shit, that has to be significant, mm-hmm. It just felt so, cosmically important, it just felt like I was, given access to this space where, all of the decisions for, the universe were being made or something, Yeah. That's probably not the case, but that's the way mm-hmm. I felt when I woke up. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of go about my life after that. We discover what's wrong with me. There was this dental material in my mouth that was making me sick. Mm-hmm. I get it removed, and then shortly thereafter, I go back to work, and I get a new job at this place, this pizza place. And I'm starting just about the same time as this other guy. And we're working together, and he's had more experience than I had in throwing pizza dough and everything. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of just tossing his pizza dough around, and he's throwing it up in the air and doing all these fancy tricks. And I'm watching his hands, and then his wrist catches my attention because there is a tattoo on his arm of a window with bricks around it and a cross inside of it in the exact same spot as it was in my dream, mm-hmm. on my arm. And I kind of stopped for a second, and I was like, no shit, of course, it caught me off guard, and I just kind of looked at it, and I was like, no way. Yeah, just kind of nah, man. Are you serious right now?
This isn't happening.
This isn't real. you're going crazy. Like, you're seeing shit. But then after a couple of days, I got to know him a little bit better, and I was like, all right, this is the kind of guy I can actually ask about this kind of stuff. So I just asked him like why he got that tattoo. And he's like, just nonchalantly is just kind of like, I don't know, man, I just like to get tattoos of things that I see in dreams. And then just goes back to his shit. And I didn't talk to him about it, like, again. I didn't tell him, like, oh, I had a dream about that or whatever. Because I just didn't want to, like, start my relationship off with this new coworker as, like, somebody who might be potentially insane. So I just went about my business and didn't, nothing happened after that. But that was the first thing that happened after that dream.
Damn.
So I just kind of go about my life. Every once in a while, something would remind me of it, and I'd be like, yeah, that was crazy. I wish I had more dreams like that. I want to go back there and explore it a little bit more. I want to find out what it is. And no matter what I tried, and I didn't really research it much until much later, I just never had the dream again.
Yeah.
And never was given access to that space again. And so it's about 2 years after I started that job, my girlfriend and I at the time were breaking up. And I decided to, at that point, just kind of in the fervor of a bad breakup, I decided, and plus, like, I'd been in Portland for so long at that point, like 20 plus years. And I was just like, dude, I'm so done with this town. It's exhausting. It's too small, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah. I decide to move somewhere else. I'm like, I'm going somewhere else. I don't know where it's going to be, but I'm just leaving for a while. And, but anyway, but yeah, so I took a train to New York to visit my friends, a couple of people that lived out there. Actually, the girl that I was referencing in the first dream ended up living there, and she's the one that I stayed with when I went out there to hang out.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like September, late September, I think at the time, just about to bleed into October. And she's like, there are mosquitoes. You gotta there's mosquitoes in my house. There's like standing water somewhere in the building, and just be aware. So she has actually like a mosquito net around her bed. And I was like, this is like, really? And I was like, of course, like, this is New York, right? And but I'm sleeping on the couch. I don't have a mosquito net. And so I'm like fair game, like I'm dinner for these dudes, you know, and like I'm laying on the couch and there's still light coming through the skylight, and there's like mosquitoes sort of like swarming around at the skylight, and in that moment I'm taken back to the moment in the dream with the light coming through the oculus and the mosquito sort of like, like swirling down and landing on my thumb. I wake up the next morning and I'm just like covered in bites. I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I'm having that experience. I'm just having really intense deja vu the whole time I'm there. And it kind of takes you out of your body for a minute. You're like, just kind of like, man, like this is, I don't want to think about this right now. I want to think about just kind of like learning how to survive in this new city, you know? So anyway, so some time passes and I eventually have to find my own place to live. Like I have to find an apartment because I can't just stay with her on her couch. I find this friend it's a friend of a friend that I worked with. He's like, yo, you need a place, my buddy. He's like, I just moved out of this place. There's a mattress on the floor. It's semi-furnished. You can move in.
Dope. So
I meet up with the guy and he seems cool. So I move in to his place and it's kind of this dilapidated, I don't know if you've ever seen Batteries Not Included. No. Anyway, it's this like tenement building where like it's falling apart and all these people live there, and it's like there's a slumlord, it's Joe Pesci, and he's like anyway, he's like running this place into the ground, and they're just trying to get their utilities fixed, and pipes are breaking all over the place, and there's like holes in the wall, and like half of it's not even finished.
Damn.
And I'm like, man, I can't be here very long. This is not good. And I like woke up one morning with a cockroach on my chest, which was super messed up. Yeah, and so I was like, this is why the dude moved out of this place, and he's like, I can't live here anymore, but this guy needs a roommate. And so I'm talking to a friend of mine just because of like all the deja vu that had been happening, and it's a friend of mine who I feel like I can talk to about this stuff without him thinking I'm crazy. And he's like, man, this sounds really. It just kind of reminds me of, and I'm in New York, so he mentions Montauk, which is this, it's a place in New York. It's at the end of Long Island. It's really like just kind of a beautiful sort of tourist attraction now at this point. But there's a lighthouse out there, but there's also this old military base, and there's like this giant radar dish. In like contemporary conspiracy lore, it is also a place where these like super secret governmental experiments went down, where they were studying remote viewing, and using it to spy, like using the idea of psychic projection or astral projection as a means by which to spy on the Russian military during the Cold War, trying to get nuclear secrets, you know? And so I'm like, no, I've never heard of this, you know? And he's like, you should look into it. So I'm Skyping with him, and I just do like a quick search, and I find this, this book cover of one of the books, and it's like Experiments in Time, right? And it's all about astral projection, you know, like this whole thing is like about this thing that I'd been experiencing in my dreams. And the cover of the book is a temple with this character on the cover. It's a naked man with the head of a bull. And I didn't mention this, but in that dream, the man dressed in red that I mentioned had this hair that was extending into the shape of bull's horns. That was like, it would like the horns would come out of his head and then go back into his head and then wrap around the back of his head. Whoa. And the lightning would, like coming out of his eyes, would sort of do the same thing along with the shape of his hair. It was crazy. But yeah, so the cover like directly, it's like a direct representation of what I'd seen in my dream. It's almost identical. And it's another moment of like shock and disbelief, but also just being like, yeah, okay. And that's kind of like what this book, like The Alchemist, is about, is like searching for omens and synchronicities and things like that. So anyway, I decide in that moment, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to read this book. Why not? It's short, and it's something to do on the subway. I'm like riding the train every day now. So there's like, and I think part of my brain was like looking for parallels, like looking for things within this book that might tell me more about this place. Because clearly this is, well, to me, I was like, all right, so this is a place that might exist within the psyche that we all have access to. Yeah. And I was just somehow given access to it, or, you know, it was my time to go there. Yeah. I have no idea. Yeah. And so yeah, a lot of it was about synchronicities and looking for synchronicities in your life or whatever. And he was like, just the philosophical aspect of the book was more geared toward that. And I'm like, man, so I read the book and I'm like, all right, cool. I want to go check this place out. I want to see this. For sure. It's within reach. I can catch a train and go there. Damn. And mind you, I was working at Stumptown on West 8th in Greenwich Village. So we end up doing that. We get out to Montauk. We go to the base. I take some pictures or whatever. I get a little spooked because I walk up to the fence, you know, and I see this guy, like an armed guard, walking in this abandoned space. And in my head, I'm like, man, it's still guarded, you know, like, what's going on? Then I quickly realized, of course, this place is guarded, or else it would be overrun by squatters. You know, like it's a military base. It doesn't mean it's active, right? So I go home after that, and I'm like, that was cool. That was a cool experience, whatever, you know. And don't really think anything of it. But I sit down at my table in my shitty apartment, and I'm like smoking a cigarette and like just like watching something on my computer, and I kind of look at the floor and I'm like, man, I really like this floor. And it's like checkered. It's like a really nice checkered floor. My eyes kind of drift up, and on the left side of the room in the kitchen, there's a door to the bathroom, and it's red. And then I look to my right, and the door that leads to the outside of the apartment is blue. So there's this red door and this blue door amidst this checkered floor. And I kind of just shake my head. I'm like, all right, man. And the idea of synchronicities just came back. And it's not that there's any like meaning to this. I'm not saying there's meaning. I'm just saying that like
it brought you back to that mind space.
Yeah, and it just kind of made me question, like it made me wonder, like I said previously, like if this space is like we are existing somehow like inside of a space that is inside of our heads, that is sharing the same space with our dreams, the environment that we explore in our dreams. It's hard to put into words. Yeah, absolutely. But it kind of makes sense. That's the only question that it made. That's really the only question that would arise in my mind, or like the only thing that it made me think about. I will, on a side note, say that I don't know if this could be coincidence. So I don't want to attach it to the dream necessarily, or attach it to anything, because I just don't know. But I had really bad pneumonia right before I went out to Montauk, and it wasn't like, it was like drug resistant, and I almost died from it. I had like, my lungs were like 80% full of fluid by the time I went to the doctor. And so I'm like, it's kind of going away, but it keeps coming back. And I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go out to Montauk no matter what, even if I'm like kind of ill. I get out there, and it could have just been the ocean air, but the next day, or like while I was out there, I just felt this like sense of relief, like something was happening, like I was like better. And the next day I was better. So it could have just been, like I said, just timing. It could have been coincidence, right. But to me, I was like, it was this nice little like bow wrap, you know, like it was a way of sort of bringing closure to the whole situation. It's like, I went out there, I got better. I don't know if that means anything to somebody out there. I'm sure they're like, yes, you know, you followed your path, and you know, like, and part of my brain wants to believe that. I don't know if that's true. So just,
it's interesting. It's an interesting detail.
It's a detail. It doesn't really, like, I don't want anybody out there to think that I'm just like this like pseudo-scientific, like, you know, hyper spiritual dude, because I'm not at the end of the day. It makes me, these occurrences have made me think. That's the extent of my, you know, like my understanding of these experiences, you know. But you know, I mean, I've talked to people that have had similar experiences. Nothing quite like what I experienced, but nonetheless, they're like, yeah, you know, I really pay attention to my dreams. And also through your podcast, I've actually not necessarily met people, but had like the guy who talked about the Vegas shooting.
Oh yeah.
Was that your first episode?
Yeah. I think it was the first
one.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Oh, actually, one more thing.
Yeah.
So I met somebody later on in life. This is years later. Actually, this is like last year. I met this like really, man, this woman who I kind of like fell for, actually, because she was just so enigmatic. And we talked for, you know, like a good few hours just about dreams and like just, you know, philosophy or whatever. And she ended up being somebody who I was like, yo, I got to share this with you, you know, and told her the story. And she's like, that's in the Kabbalah, the Jewish Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism. It's like sort of like the real like Judeo religion. In the Kabbalah, there are paths that you follow. I'm not really well versed in it, but she kind of described that temple and that space as being a place in the mind. And so I ended up looking something up on the internet, like about the Kabbalah and the path or whatever, you know, and I found this little icon attached to, I think it's path number 32, and I sent you the link.
Yeah, that sounds very, very close, if not exactly what it is.
Yeah, and in the picture, I think, did you see the icon with like it's like the temple, the checkered floor? Yeah. And then in like on the checkered floor in this icon, there's a person dressed in red and a person dressed in blue.
What, dude?
Yeah, exactly. What? And this is relatively recently that I decided to look it up, you know, like in the past, like a year ago or something, she told me about the Kabbalah, and I was like, I'll have to read that. And she's like, it's like 2 million pages. Like, you're not gonna, don't worry about it, you know? And so I was like, maybe I can narrow it down. Eventually I just thought, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should look that up. Kind of narrowed it down. And, so yeah, that's that. See, like, there's so many details to this that it's kind of hard for me to recall everything. But that was like the final thing that made me go like, oh, so this is rooted not only on this book, and I think the book was reference to the Kabbalah and mysticism and synchronicity, because they talk about that a lot in the in Kabbalic mysticism. But I don't even know if that's the right word for the right phrase. But yeah, anyway, you know, yeah. Anyway, if anybody wants to correct me out there, that's cool. And I could actually go on about this dream for a very long time and other experiences that I sort of had with it and conversations that I had. But if anybody does have any questions about this, or if you've had any other, if anybody else out there has had any sort of experience related to this space, the temple, the two sort of philosopher deities, the pyramids in the distance, whatever, any of those elements showing up in your dreams, please reach out to me. I want to talk to you, because I think it could lead to some really interesting conversations.
How would someone do that? How does someone get a hold of you?
You can find me on Instagram, probably at Kit Crenshaw.
Okay.
It's just my name, all one word, KITCRENSHAW. I don't need to spell it for you. It'll be in the listing. Actually, if you want to just put a link to my,
I will.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I will.
Yeah. Reach out to me. I want to talk to anybody about this shit. I think it's super fascinating. And what else are we doing?
Right.
I don't know. I guess to wrap that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, try to remember your dreams. If you don't remember your dreams that well, if you're not really one of those people that wake up in the morning and can recall everything, try to, as soon as you can, write everything down, record it. And it's a fun game to play, if anything, to look for synchronicities, or parallels between your dreams and things that happen in real life.
Yeah.
Because I think they serve a purpose in some respect. I don't know what that is, but
What I think is the way I think about it is that is only there for that second, and if you don't write it down, it's gone forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless it's one of those couple dreams that really sticks with you, it's going to be gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's grab it, you know, while you can.
Yeah, it's special,
it's really
man.
Important. Yeah, dude. It's during your lifetime, you'll probably never get that.
No,
again.
Yeah. You're having a legitimate psychedelic experience.
Yeah, I mean, dude, write it down, and it can leak into. It probably will at some point leak into your waking life, or build onto your dream life.
Exactly. You never know.
I look at it way different, dude. I used to never pay attention to my dreams, and then I had this one that I got the tattoo of, and it's really. What I brought from that dream.
Sorry, what is the tattoo though? What is it?
It brought. It's the tire iron.
Oh, dope!
And this is what I bashed that lady with, and I killed her. But she represented bad things, and I took the lesson that I took from that dream is with me every day.
Wow. Yeah.
Completely changed my outlook. On everything.
Exactly. Really. Yeah.
So
man.
Yeah, it was crazy. I felt. When I woke up, I was I got it. It was everything was changed.
Was that the thing that inspired you to want to make this podcast?
It wasn't even in that creative realm at that point. It was just some time opened up with my tattoo guy, and I was I'm going to get a tattoo, and I was fuck it, I'll get that. That's kind of a dream. But that was
something personal to you. It's not like you're just picking some flash.
Nobody will ever understand that unless they get the story, which the story is pretty dope.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't get a tire iron lodged in some lady's eyeball though.
Right.
Socket or something.
So gnarly.
That would have been brutal.
You might have to get a window on your wrist. I'm just saying.
I've thought about it. Honestly, I've thought about it, but
even a small little tiny one.
Just a tiny window. Yeah. I had a friend who got this really cool tattoo of a window with planets outside of it and space. Okay. And I thought that was really cool. Sick. And it was kind of I thought about incorporating something similar, but with the cross inside of it on my wrist.
Sure, but I mean, it's a legitimate, easy symbol to get tattooed. Some people are how would I get?
I guess part of me, the thing that it would have to be visible because it would be on my wrist. I could get it anywhere, I guess. Yeah. But I mean, for it to have the significance that I would want it to have, I'd want to get it where it was, But I'm afraid of the conversations that would come up if I got a cross on my arm. You know what I mean? And I think at the time when I initially thought of getting the tattoo, because I did think about it especially after I saw that guy's tattoo.
Yeah.
I thought about it and I was I don't want to deal with the people asking questions, but I don't think I would care anymore. That was my 28-year-old self.
Right.
36.
Yeah. I wonder if that your buddy had any other tattoos from dreams.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't
probably
ask
covered
him.
though, huh?
Yeah, no, I could see he had a lot of tattoos, but they were sort of scattered. And I think if I now and the person that I am now would probably ask him if he had any others, because I think at that point, just those kind of conversations or how to have those conversations wasn't something that I developed. It wasn't a skill that I developed yet. So yeah, I had this dream about it was about New York, and I was working, I think, as a line cook at the Greek Cuisina at the time, and so in my dream I walk out of a building, and I think that has some kind of significance, like walking through a threshold is sort of, and like in certain cultures and certain philosophies, I'm using broad terms here because I don't fucking know. I know there is a philosophy surrounding the threshold, and like it being sort of a gate and like a mechanism of cleansing or entering a new dimension of space. But anyway, so I walk through this doorway. I go outside, I pull a cigarette out and I light it, and I'm dressed in, I got like an apron on and like a chef's coat, and I'm on a pier. And the New York City sky, I'm basically on the East River, and the New York City skyline is just on the other side of the river, so I'm in Brooklyn, I guess. At the time, I'd never been to New York. In my head, I was like, this is Coney Island. Like, for whatever reason, I had no idea what Coney Island really, like, where it was geographically, right. But this is, in my head, I thought I was in Coney.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there, and like, I walk out, and I'm like on this boardwalk, essentially. There's this kind of people milling about, and they're walking out onto this horseshoe sort of pier that goes out. So it goes out and kind of like goes up and wraps around and comes back down onto the boardwalk. I decide to walk out onto it because I want a better view. Everything behind me in Brooklyn sort of disappears as I walk out onto this. It disappears from my peripheral vision. And I look down. I hear like something in the water, and I look down. And I see this killer whale swimming around, and then another, like a sperm whale comes up, and the blue whale, like all these different whales start swimming. Like, have you ever been to like a fish hatchery?
Yeah, or like a or like an aquarium or something.
Yeah, when you look down in the water and there's just fish all on top of each other. Whatever, And they were just like, swimming on top of each other and just kind of like coexisting in this, space below me. And this one killer whale starts getting really aggressive, and then quickly dives straight down, disappears into the water. Shortly thereafter, I see its face, its like nose coming up, and then it breaches the water, breaks, like shatters the dock that I'm standing on. And mind you, this like throws me, like I get thrown, I jump and somehow land on the other side of the dock, like I survive this thing. And then another whale jumps up and breaks another portion of the dock, and it just like shatters or like turns into splinters. And then I somehow like leap and land back on the boardwalk, and I look back toward the water, and I see these whales just like decimating this dock, and just turns it, they're just to like flotsam, And I'm like, fuck. So I wake up from that dream, and I'm like, just like, wow, that was nuts. Like, what did that even mean? And so I go to a friend's house the next night, actually, to record some music. This girl shows up, and she like pulls this book out of her bag, and it's a book on dreams. And I remember just going like, man, that's convenient. Like, whatever. And so I'm like, let me see that. And so I like flip through it, and I find, there's like, it's all in alphabetical order. And so I find whales, and open it up, and on the page about whales, it's like whales. And then right above that, there is like a visual sort of representation. And it is a painting of literally every kind of whale swimming together. Right out of my dream. There was no like skyline or anything like that, but as far as just all of these different whales swimming together, I was like, what are the odds? Anyway. And so I read a little bit further, and it's just a bunch of like, to me it's bullshit. It's like, this is a bad sign, do not proceed or whatever, like. And so anyway, so years later I moved to New York, right? Fast forward, a friend of mine is visiting from Portland, and this is like kind of like maybe like the last 6 months that I'm living in, or last year that I'm living in New York. And I lived pretty close to Coney Island at that point. I'd been there quite a few times. And we decide to ride our bikes to Coney Island. And we get out there, we get pretty close, and I just start smelling this like really rich smell of like dead fish. I'm I'm like, that's strange. I didn't know there was like is there like a fish market? I was like, I don't think there is. There, I hadn't really looked for a fish market. I'd never really smelled fish when I was out there, so it was strange for me. And so we get there, we chain up our bikes. The boardwalk, there's a railing, and then there's the beach. And so we chain our bikes to the beach, or the railing, hop the railing, get onto the beach. There's like nobody around, which is really bizarre because it's a nice day. And we see this group of people gathered in like one specific area. Like everybody from the beach was congregating in this circle. And I see this like big like backhoe, like big like tractor. And then there's like a park ranger sort of like circling them slowly on a like ATV 4-wheeler. So I was like, man, what's going on? We get closer and closer. As we get closer, we can like see through the crowd a little bit more. And there is a beached whale.
Damn.
A headless whale. Oh, it's headless and whatever. and I was like, it looked nothing like my dream, but I remember like in my dream thinking I was at Coney Island seeing all these whales and they had to like attack this thing. And it kind of felt like I was like like my time there was almost up. Like I needed to leave for whatever reason. And I had this really crazy conversation probably like a month before with my bodega guy who was like this Haitian dude who I could barely understand. And he looked in my eyes and he just had these features and it was like sort of like this like I the only way, like he was straight out of the Matrix, you know what I mean? Like he was like this dude who was like, he said these things like why do you live here? Nobody should live here. Like the only reason that I live here is because I don't have any means to leave. He's like, you live in a neighborhood that you don't have to live in. But in this other way, where it's like you're a human being with a means to leave, why are you in this place?
Right.
How did you find this place? How did you find yourself here?
Right.
Like you're not happy. And it's like 2:00 in the morning. This dude's selling crack to my right, and he's just like, we're just sitting out there having a cigarette talking. And I'd lived there for quite a while at that point, like in this neighborhood, and had gotten to know a few of the people, and and it was, I just liked the people really, and that's like why I was there. But it was also pretty depressing because I was living in this old, it was like a pre-war building. And so it was relatively cheap. I think I was only paying like $650 a month for New York for this enormous room, It's cheap for New York. Yeah. And there was like mice in my room and stuff, but it's pretty standard protocol for New York. But it was, and there was like all these people that had lived there, like generations of people, like, and it was mainly Jamaican, Haitian, and Tahitian. And there were always ambulances outside my building because there were like these old people that lived there that were just dying, or being having issues, or on life, or they were just like living on life support in their apartments or whatever. And I just like saw these people like dropping, and I was like, man, this is like, it was a huge reality check for me, but it also made me go like, man, you're gonna die. Like it made like maybe it's just I have a predisposition to think darkly about things sometimes, but yeah, it was fascinating, but also it was like him telling me that he's like not passively saying this to me. Right. He was talking to me with intent, like saying, like almost like warning me, like you need to leave. And I was like, all right. And then like shortly thereafter, I like went to the beach and had that experience with the beached whale or whatever, and was like, I gotta get out of here. Like, so I've learned to listen to my environment. Not saying that was there just for me or anything like that. I know it wasn't, but I don't think that there's anything sending us signs. That's not what this is about. I really do think that we just resonate with our future. Time isn't linear. We're sending ourselves signals. And if we pay close enough attention, we will be able to sort of, it will help us navigate our reality, And I think that that's a role that dreams play for some people. I think everyone, if we learn how to tap into it. And they can also teach us things about, something that we, like you with the tire iron and the woman. Sorry. Yeah, so that's kind of my takeaway, I guess, from all of these experiences that I've had, and in the dream state. I honestly now I have a few. I've had a few dreams recently that have like made me think, just kind of about like just being careful. Like I feel like I'm going through a change right now. Currently, especially like in the past couple weeks, I've like had these like pretty profound changes occur in my life. And I've had some pretty interesting dreams related to those experiences, like what I know is coming down the pipe. Like there's certain things that I know I'm going to have to deal with, and I've had these dreams that have sort of like giving me some sort of symbolic insight to sort of to reckon with, to work with, you know.
What in wrapping this up, what are you going to do after this point to grasp those signs and dreams? Are you gonna start recording stuff?
Yeah, I think I will.
You should, dude.
Yeah, I
really,
know. The more that I listen to this, I know, right?
Yeah.
So I've always wanted to like make like a comic book or something, or like, you know, some form of like visual art related to this stuff, and or like a short film maybe or something.
Yeah.
But I do want to start writing this stuff down. But you know, I've had really insane, like I've had dreams where like the sky opens up, you know, and like starts swallowing people, like shit like that, you know, like really post-apocalyptic stuff, and I don't really take anybody's word on what that means, because I think it's personal. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I believe so.
So yeah, I think that we can draw a lot of creative ideas, and the thing is, it's a lot of people say that like being creative or using your dreams as like fodder for storytelling, a lot of people say that that's sort of like a cop out or like too easy or something like that, but it's not. I mean, like I think Stephen King is like, he writes about his dreams all the time, but I'm not saying I'm Stephen King or anything like that. I'm just saying like this is a space that we don't get to share with each other. This is something like things that we experience that we don't really talk about unless they're in some sort of art, in the form of some sort of artistic medium. Yeah. So I think that writing things down, and also writing things down is like proven to help you remember and kind of like solidifies things in your memory in a completely different way. But just to wrap, I guess it up, the other night I had this dream, and I'm not gonna tell you the whole dream or anything, but I had this this crazy experience where like I was waking up out of a dream. Yeah. And I was trying to open my eyes, and this line across my field of vision, this line formed, this perfect line, this perforation formed, and then just kind of like slowly started to peel up. And as it started to peel up, like my dream itself started to become translucent, and it was almost like a hazy material, like looking through frosted glass or something. And just beyond the frosted glass, I could see this like blurred outline of the things in my room. Like I was in my room looking through this, translucent eyelid. Whoa. Yeah, right? It was crazy. And and as that opened, my eyes opened. And then I was in, like, it would open, it started to, this is kind of hard to explain. So it started to open, and then my eyes like kind of were like, oh, it's time to wake up, it's time to open your eyes. And as I opened my eyes, that opened, and I was in my room.
You're in your room.
I was actually in my room. It's completely awake.
That's so crazy.
Like, and I didn't like wake up again. I wasn't like a dream within a dream.
Right. You have like the old projectors where like they would have two pages on top of each other, but you could take that first page off, and it would just like leave like that the first image on the projector part. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but
right.
Like you had like two halves of a plane, let's say, and you can just take that first half off. And
yes, absolutely. Yeah,
the remaining image.
Like when your teacher is sort of like just going to, like has a piece of paper on it and it's like slowly moving it down to show you what's up. Yeah, totally.
Not showing you the answers or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So
dope, dude. Well, if you have anything quick to add,
I think I said it. Cool. Basically, just I think that a lot of people are maybe afraid to talk about this kind of stuff, me included. Like I didn't really, I wanted to do, part of me was like really excited about it, but another part of me is like, man, this is something you don't really talk about.
It's hard to put into words too.
It is, and
it's so hard.
It's crazy, and it's hard to explain to people. I don't practice talking about this very often. It's a very private experience, and I don't talk about it because I don't want, in a world, in the current world where people don't really like, where there's a lot of snap judgment, I don't want people thinking that I'm just like this pseudoscientific, like sort of like hyper spiritualist or anything like that, just because I'm looking beyond the veil a little bit. But I think also there are forces in pop culture, especially right now, that are starting to talk about this stuff a little bit more. You included, you know, and it's becoming less taboo.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Kit really has a way with words, and his story is so descriptive and just like intense. It kind of makes me wonder how much of what we read and watch throughout the day is put into our, stored in our brains. And I wonder how much that plays a role into the like imagery and the scenes that we see within our dreams. If you enjoyed what you just heard, please show us some love and let us know what you liked or didn't like also on any social media. We're most active on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. If you'd like to hear more stories like Kit's, please check out the website at allaboardthedreamtrain.com, where you can find more of our backlog of episodes as well as see pictures of each guest. That's all on the website. Of course, if you have comments or suggestions, or you have a story that you're just dying to tell us, please feel free to reach out at allaboardthedreamtrain@gmail.com. Again, I hope you enjoyed. We're excited to share with you what else we have in store for the rest of the year. We're going to go hard this year. I hope everybody has a great day and get some sleep.